Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you.
So, Kelly has the luxury of living in Knysna.
Yes.
So, Kelly, tell us what's it like being in Cape Town?
Different. You can go shopping here. Amazing.
So, Kelly, you describe yourself as a mum and a wife and a serial philanthropist. What many people don't actually know about you is that you're a qualified lawyer.
Yes.
And you qualified not only in South Africa, but you've qualified in the UK as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about what brought you to the work that you do in the community and what this really means to you? Why did you choose that as opposed to not following your career in law?
Okay. In addition to being a lawyer, I was also a property lawyer. That's actually how Scott and I met, and I think that's something a lot of people don't know. I was lucky that I was involved in real estate from a young age. You know, my parents invested in real estate, my grandparents did. So even before I knew Scott, real estate was a big part of my life. I also bought my first property at a very young age. So I think that gave me the freedom that I didn't have to work. I could choose to be a stay-at-home mom, and I could choose to follow purposeful things in the community in Knysna. You know, we built a creche. We ran Santa Shoebox for 2 years, built it up to 15,000 Santa Shoeboxes. And I just find it much more rewarding than the legal work that I used to do. But I'm grateful because I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now if I hadn't invested in real estate.
Thank you. So Kelly, we've had a brief introduction to you, and I would like us to now move to the message that Scott actually recorded for us. And if you guys don't mind playing Scott's video, and welcome.
Good day, ladies. Well, I want to welcome you all to this amazing event, Women in Wealth. My name is Scott Picken. I'm the CEO and founder of Wealth Migrate. And we are really privileged to have so many great ladies in the room. You know, when I look at it, the stats around the world are that 49% of the world's wealth is held in real estate. And yet only 12.9% of the world's population even has access to real estate. What's horrifying is that when you look at that 12.9%, in the Western world, so England, Australia, America, less than 1% of people at the age of 65 are going to retire wealthy. Now that just doesn't seem right when you consider how many people work hard, go to school, go to university, pay their taxes, and ultimately don't achieve their objectives. What's even more worrying is that when you look at that number, less than 1% of wealth is actually held by females. And so these statistics are completely skewed when you consider that our planet is roughly 50-50. Added to that, when you take into account illiteracy rates, more than 65 to 75% of people on the planet that are illiterate are women. Now, there are some amazing statistics out there that actually a woman adds a tremendous amount more value to the community than us men do. You know, when you look at that and you look at where the world is going, I think we're in a very exciting century going forward. It's one of the reasons why we formed the Wealth Movement, and we really wanted to focus on 3 core areas to make the planet a better place. The first one was entrepreneurship for children. We fundamentally believe that the way to build a better planet is for children to get the right entrepreneurship training. We wanted to empower women. You know, up until now, the financial industry has been a very male-dominated world, and we wanted to empower them not only with access and knowledge, but also with access to opportunities. And then finally, we wanted to empower everyone with access through technology to good opportunities so that they can create and build their own wealth. And that's really why we said the Wealth Movement. We set ourselves a massive transformative purpose of empowering 1 billion people and ultimately looking to make the world and the planet a better and more sustainable place for all. So, you know, for all of you lovely ladies today, I really hope that you enjoy the speakers. They've got some amazing knowledge, they've got some amazing track records, and hopefully they can share with you some of the gems, and you're going to take some real knowledge away from what is being shared with you here today. And the last thing that I would say, please, really respect and celebrate, what you ladies are doing on this planet, the impact that you're having, these type of events. You really need to come together. You need to have a collective voice. Those statistics are disgusting, and we need to look to change it. And I want to really congratulate you and celebrate with you that days like this will increase your purpose, will increase your voice, and most importantly, go a long way to solving some of the greatest challenges on the planet. Enjoy today, have lots of fun, and most importantly, go out there and make an impact on the planet. Thanks.
So thank you to Scott for that very inspiring message. And
Can I add something there? Like,
please.
he really, truly believes that. He does. He supports me in every way he's described in that video. So what I should have said in my previous answer is, I wouldn't be who I am today without him.
so you.
And I know it's about us, so I shouldn't say that. But he really does. He's all for, making it a better place for children and women, and he believes what he says.
He does, and I mean, he carries that ethos through every, all the work that he does, particularly with Wealth Migrate. So Kelly, looking at that, why do you think that woman upliftment is so important?
Because those statistics that he gave are disgusting. He's right. 1% of the world's wealth is held by women. 2/3 of women in the world are illiterate. Warren Buffett says America is such a great place, and look how far they've come, but that's only with 50% of their workforce. You add women to that, can you imagine where we would be? And just to give you an example, a story, we have a lady called Zanele who works for us. She's worked for us for 6 years, and she started off as a cleaner. But she always came to work with a smile on her face, and she wanted to improve her life. She was always happy. Our dogs loved her. And I got pregnant with John T, and she became his nanny. And then she was an au pair, and we taught her to drive, and she saved money to buy a car. And now she's an assistant. She's come a very long way in 6 years. And we actually lent her 1,000 rand to buy a shack in Cape Town, in Khayelitsha. 6 years ago, she just sold her shack for 10,000 rand.
Wow.
It's amazing to see what you can do. The difference you can make in people's lives. You just have to try.
Yeah. So that kind of takes me to my next question, and I want you to tell us a little bit about Lemonade Day.
Okay.
And how that initiative came to South Africa. Is my mic okay, guys?
I don't know if it's you or me. It's one of us. Who is it? Is it Kelly? Should I take this off and try to shout louder? Okay, can somebody come take it off me, please? How do you use a button here?
Yeah, that's gentleman's coming forward. So there's definitely an echo on the sound, guys.
Okay, do you want me to just turn this off? Okay.
Okay.
So am I standing or sitting? Okay.
Is it going to be easier for you if we stand?
Okay, we're
Okay.
just trying to. Can you guys all hear me if I talk like this? Like my husband. Or is this better? Which one? Okay.
Why? Okay.
So Lemonade Day is something that's very close to our hearts, because Lemonade Day came about because we wanted to teach our son about money. Okay, he's 5 now, but he was 2.5 at the time. And Scott had heard about Lemonade Day in America. It's very popular. And he was in Houston, so he thought, well, let me go see them and find out if I can bring Lemonade Day back to South Africa. And they, of course, said no, because nobody wants to do business in Africa. I'm joking. But my husband doesn't take no for an answer. Those of you that know him will know that. So he got the rights for Lemonade Day Africa, and we brought it back to South Africa. And we had our very first Lemonade Day stand with our 2.5-year-old son and Zanele, who I've just told you guys about, the lady we empowered. And it was so cute watching them in the shopping center, and a little 2.5-year-old saying, do you want to buy a cup of lemonade? But the project expanded at the Knysna Oyster Festival, and it was a little boy called Bongi who expanded it. He just had such drive and perseverance, and you know, he was always the first one there and the last one to leave, and he arrived with this huge jug of lemonade, and he wasn't going home until it was sold. So he actually ended up winning Lemonade Day and going on his first trip to Joburg, first time on an airplane, first time in a hotel, and speaking at the Wealth Movement to, I think it was also 200 people, or was it 1,000 people? But I mean, he's like was in grade 6 at the time. So because of that, we've crowdfunded Bongi into the private school in Knysna. It's Oak Hill School. And I don't know if you wanted to add to that, but the proceeds of today are going to Bongi's education. And we'd like to continue to support him. So it's a wonderful project that started off, you know, teaching your children about money, which I think is so important. It's one of the best skills you can give your children. And ended up with a little boy going to a private school, and he now plays Southwest District's hockey for Oak Hill. So that's the story.
Yeah. So guys, just to add to what Kelly said, and I think give yourselves all a great clap, because the money that you spent to be here today is going towards Bongi's further education. He's completed grade 8, he's halfway through grade 9. And the women of Wealth Migrate came together, and we said, how are we going to make sure that we can support him to get through to matric? And we said, we're going to start a new campaign called Paying It Forward. And all of the proceeds that we do around educating people from an investment perspective, those proceeds are going to go towards Bongi's education. So I'd like to just introduce you to Bongi, and if you guys wouldn't mind playing a quick video on Bongi.
Hi, my name is Bongsen Njogu. I'm 14 years old. I started my primary school years in Knysna Primary from grade 1 to 7, but now I'm in college in Oak Hill. I got this opportunity to come to Oak Hill in grade 7, where I had the opportunity to show myself. I entered this Lemonade Day project, where they taught us how to make money and start our own business. From there on, we started selling at the Oyster Festival, and that's where I got picked. That's where I got picked to go to Joburg, where we got the opportunity to sell there, where people made lots of money. From there on, I met a guy called Kevin who offered to sponsor me into Oak Hill, a school of my dreams. From there on, I found Oak Hill very interesting and very fun.
He's just the sweetest guy. So thank you, ladies, for your contribution towards
And
towards
just to
Bongi.
say one last thing, at the Oyster Festival, he made 1,700 Rand. That's more money than his parents make in a month. Yeah.
So Kelly, on that, there seems to be a growing trend, particularly amongst the millennials, who want to get involved with companies and businesses that have, you know, a great call to action with regards to social responsibility. And at Wealth Migrate, we hear from you and we hear from Scott that this is really important for us and why we do this. Why do you think that is so important, and what resonates with you about Wealth Migrate doing that?
Okay, there's a movement called the Massive Transformative Purpose. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, so we're going to call it MTP, so I don't have to say all those words again. But it's basically the fastest growing companies in the world are, their purpose, their mission statement isn't about making a profit or anything like that. It's about fulfilling a purpose in the world. You know, so for example, Wealth Migrate, one of the fastest growing companies among them, their MTP is to help children become entrepreneurs and learn about money, to empower women. what's the third one?
And to educate, bridging this wealth gap, because as Scott was saying, there's this massive wealth gap out there. And how do we bring different alternative types of investment asset classes to people that allow us to invest into these, that historically may have only been open to the very wealthy. And this is what the Wealth Migrate platform brings to us, is bridging this gap, whereas real estate and commercial real estate was only previously available to super wealthy people. And now, through the technology and through the Wealth Migrate platform, we are able to do this, where you can invest now in commercial real estate from as little as $1,000 or 1,000 Rand in South Africa. And these investments, we've got investments in the UK, we've got investments in Australia and predominantly in the USA. But I don't want to go into all of that, because we've got one of our investment consultants, and we're going to ask her a number of questions that will help you understand this a little bit better.
And the problem with the wealth gap is it's only getting bigger. So it's not about taking money away from the wealthy. It's about helping those who have never had access to money or real estate to have that access. That's what it's about. So closing the wealth gap. Not taking away from the rich, making the gap smaller.
So Kelly, in your personal capacity, you've actually invested in Wealth Migrate.
Yes, in every single deal.
You've invested in Wealth Migrate in the company, and you've invested through the investments on our platform. So why was this important for you to do in your own personal capacity?
I think life's about freedom, and real estate's the vehicle that gives you that freedom. The freedom to live in Eisner. And we live in a state where we're the youngest owners by 30 years. That was given to us because of investing in real estate. Passive income gives you freedom, gives you the freedom to live wherever you want in the world, earn foreign income, send your children to any university in the world. That's the real reason for us. There's another side to it, where when Scott first met Henny and Peter Fenstra, he wanted to invest in one of their deals, and the minimum investment was $7 million. So Scott was very upset about that he couldn't get in on their deal. So he wanted to make it that people like him and us and everyday people can invest in real estate, because that's the one thing that the wealthiest people in the world have in common: real estate investments and a property portfolio.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. So I hope this gives a better understanding in terms of why Wealth Migrate does what we do. There's a much bigger reason about just being a business and looking at the bottom line. There's a much bigger movement around Wealth Migrate, and it's called the Wealth Movement, and this is really the vision of the company. So Kelly, before we end with you, I just wanted to ask you a personal question, and that is, does Scott ever sleep? And how on earth do you deal with it?
Well, that's the $1 million question. Fortunately for him, he doesn't need a lot of sleep at all to function. And I rest when he goes traveling. It's my rest time.
Okay, so guys, are there any questions that anybody would like to ask Kelly before she leaves us?
Anything? I really don't mind. In my early 20s. My mom actually bought me a flat when I was a child, but that doesn't count. So I'll go with in my early 20s when I paid for it myself.
And great question, because the real lesson is that the earlier you start, the better the returns can be. I mean, we all understand what compounded interest is. So I try and explain this to my children all the time, and they're teenagers and they know much better than me anyway. But it's really, guys, start young, because if I look back now and I look at some of the mistakes I made and investments I got rid of because I was concerned and watching the market and the volatility of the market, choose a long-term investment and let it stick there for you, because you get the benefit of the compounding interest. So great question, thank you. We had another, yes. We had one more over here, sorry.
I just wanted to find out if there's any other way we could help with Bongi that pay it forward.
Yes, we would love
there
that.
is.
Definitely.
So what we've done is Jenny has put together a new campaign page, and after this event we will send it all to you on LinkedIn, and it's a page called Pay It Forward, and there's definitely a way that you can get further involved. Thank you for that. Yes.
Your return on earnings on actual physical property is not as good as it was like 18 years ago. We've had a massive, especially in Western Cape, we've had a massive spike in property costs. Is it better to actually buy the physical property or to invest in property shares?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Because I'm sure the guys at the back can't hear the question.
Can you guys hear the questions? Oh gosh, okay.
That you can just hand and take
Yes.
I've asked, the return on earnings on actual physical property these days is not as good as it was, for argument's sake, 18, 20 years ago, because property has become so expensive to purchase, and our rental income hasn't sort of dealt with the return on earning percentages. Is it better to physically buy property or to rather look at property share investment?
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Teresa at the back. Teresa is one of our investment consultants, and we're going to bring her up later to discuss, getting to the real investment, the product side of things. But Teresa, are you able to just give us a very quick overview?
It's better to buy into shared opportunities now because of exact same reasons that you mentioned. Rental income hasn't kept up with the prices of properties simply because people's salaries haven't gone up. Their salaries remain the same, but the property prices go up all the time. So there's a lot of other reasons too why owning individual properties are not as lucrative as it used to be. And that's exactly why Wealth Migrate is here, because you can now get involved in commercial real estate opportunities, which are in any case better than single residential. But we'll get to that later.
And I think it's also important to note at this stage is Wealth Migrate are not financial advisors. So we can bring you the opportunities. We can show you the returns of the different investments that we get involved with through the Wealth Migrate platform, but we're not advisors. At the end of the day, the onus is still going to be on you as the investor. Our investment consultants are there to help guide you through additional research that you may need, but we're never going to get into advising you on which road to actually go. But thank you, great question. Any other questions? If there are any specific investment questions, I'm going to ask you guys to hold that to the end, because Teresa's going to address a lot of those when I interview her. But other than that, please go ahead.
Hello. What advice, I'm right over here. What advice do you have for women starting out in their career and negotiating salaries? Because a big part of the gap is that women don't negotiate, and men do. So they have that higher starting point.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would say is, from my own experience,
Thank you. and this is something that my husband actually taught me, is you never say the number first. You let them give you the number first. I also think we don't believe in ourselves enough, and we don't believe we're worthy to earn the same kind of salary as men doing the same work are earning. So I think you've just got to stand up for what you believe in, and, it'll come to you. And if it doesn't, don't accept what you're not worthy of. Do you know what I mean?
I think another thing on that, Kelly, thank you, is it's very important to do your research. There's always benchmark industry standards out there in terms of what, if you're going into a specific salary or into a specific position, what that benchmark salary is. The benchmarks can change depending on if you're in South Africa or the US or, you know, any other global countries. But do your research. So, you know, when you're going in and you're sitting down and you're negotiating with them, at least you have a very good understanding of what the base level is that you should be at.
And then go and hire, like double it.
Okay. Good. So I've just been earmarked that we've got 2 minutes to go. So can we please have one more question?
Been trying to
Thank
ask for a
you.
while.
I'm sorry, it is quite a personal question,
I
but
don't
I'm
mind.
just curious to know when you started to invest, and also you got married then, when you obviously had a portfolio before you married, do you believe to keep your property or investments aside in your own name, or do you go into trusts?
Okay, so in my particular example, I'm happy to share with you. I kept what I had before the marriage, and Scott kept what he had before the marriage, and then we have together in a trust, and our son is the beneficiary of the trust. So that's the way it worked just in our particular case. It wasn't anything we agreed, it's just kind of the way it happened. So, like, for example, when I met Scott, he had private banking and I didn't. And he said to his private banker, you know, can you not hook Kelly up with private banking? And the private banker gave me access to all of Scott's accounts, which I still have. So he wasn't very happy, but it's kind of just the way it happened.
Oh, thanks, Kelly.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
Are there any other burning questions for Kelly? Yes. Great. There we go.
Hi, I'm a grandmother and an educator of 40 years. And like you said, it's very exciting to see young people here, because you get to my stage of life and you realize you're in a challenging position now. How can we, as women, positively impact the communities around us and accelerate the changes in education that are required if our children are going to have the life skills and the mental capacity and the mindset to tackle life in this new exponential age? How can we really positively make those differences as a movement like this one? How can we begin it?
I don't think it's about age. I think you can start at any age. And I think it is... thank you. I think it is to just educate yourself as much as you can. And I'm just going to talk about it, if that's okay. Is that okay? No, the echo, okay. Yeah, so I think you guys have a $100 voucher in their bags. Is that right?
100 Rand.
Oh, 100 Rand. Sorry, 100 Rand voucher. So I'd suggest start with that, you know, and follow Wealth Migrate. Follow their feeds and their tweets. And, you know, Scott's always making videos about the latest trends. And if you stay educated and you keep them educated, I think that's the best thing you can do for them.
And also on the Wealth Migrate platform now, we allow children to invest, you know, from a young age. Obviously, luckily enough, Siska's sitting right in front of you, and Siska kind of manages all of our online transactions with our clients. And as long as Siska, correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as the parents are, you know, they do the proper KYC process with their children, obviously their children being aligned to, you know, their side of their KYC, then we allow that. So maybe, you know, talk to your children, take your 100 Rand voucher and let them start. Let them see what gets put into their trading account when quarterly dividends are paid, and let them learn through that process, and don't stop the, you know, the education part of it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. It was very insightful.
Okay.
Thank you. Cool.